Our movie begins at the start of a new academic year at the university, where a welcoming ceremony is being held for the incoming students. A new student named John arrives and immediately catches everyone's attention, especially the girls, as he's famous, handsome, and comes from a wealthy family. Despite his popularity and large social media following, John feels alone. Then we meet another student named Yoon, who is struggling financially. He works multiple jobs, leaving him with no time for rest or even love. Next, we see a student named Jen, who spends all day in the library, yet her exam scores are low. On the first day of class, John walks in for his first lecture. The girls are mesmerized by his looks. He sits behind Yoon, who is asleep. When the professor enters to take attendance, John tries to wake Yoon, but accidentally spills his coffee on him. John apologizes and offers a tissue, but Yoon doesn't care. After class, John tries to give Yoon money as compensation, but Yoon refuses and walks away, leaving John puzzled by his behavior. John's friends tell him that Yoon is like a robot. In the student lounge, Jen is organizing her things, hoping to make a new, open-minded friend. She meets a beautiful girl named Shia, who's carrying a lot of bags. Jen offers to help but regrets it when she realizes how heavy the bags are, making her back ache. That evening, we see John and his friends at a nightclub. His friends only seem to hang out with him to take advantage of his wealth, as he always pays for everything. John goes to a supermarket to buy drinks, where he sees Yoon working. He invites Yoon to join them, offering to cover the costs, but Yoon declines, saying, "You can't buy everything with money." Meanwhile, Jen is working on a project for her CV, but Shia complains that she can't sleep with the light on, forcing Jen to turn off her laptop. The next day, Jen goes to the secretary's office, where she bumps into John and feels embarrassed because he's the most famous guy on campus. She learns from the secretary that John took the last available project and is advised to ask him for it. The secretary also suggests Jen join an upcoming trip for new students, which Jen agrees to. She tells her friend Tashawn, who laughs at the idea, since she'll be cleaning up after the freshmen. The following day, Jen sees Yoon volunteering for the same trip and feels anxious because Yoon is known as the smartest student on campus. During the event, the new students are introduced to each other, and John notices Jen staring at him. He assumes she likes him, and later that night, when they're alone, he asks her why she was staring. Embarrassed, Jen says his friend was calling him and quickly leaves. John then tries to befriend Yoon, but Yoon tells him he doesn't have time for friends, or even for love. After the event ends and the students leave, Yoon stays behind to clean up. Jen arrives to help and asks why he didn't reply to her message. Yoon explains he never received it, leaving Jen feeling shy, so she leaves to sleep. Later, Jen witnesses John arguing with his drunk friend, who's angry because the girl he likes is obsessed with John. In a fit of rage, the friend throws a punch at John. Jen tries to intervene, but the friend almost attacks her. At that moment, Yoon arrives and steps in to protect her, quickly subduing the attacker. At that moment, John asks Jen to clean his wound, taking advantage of the opportunity to ask her for a favor. Jen helps, and as she cleans the wound, she asks John for the project he took. John, wondering if Jen was defending him earlier because of the project, replies, "Sure, but you have to be my close friend." Jen is surprised by his request, but agrees. Later, Yoon checks his phone and realizes that Jen had indeed sent him a message, confirming her story. The next day, Yoon apologizes to Jen, explaining that he didn't ignore her on purpose the other day. Meanwhile, John asks Jen to join him in a game, but she refuses because she's scared of heights. John promises to give her the project if she plays, so Jen reluctantly agrees. As they leap together, Jen clings tightly to John, terrified. Yoon, watching from a distance, starts to take an interest in their dynamic. Back at the university, Jen asks John if he spoke with the secretary about the project, but John says he forgot and promises to handle it the next day. As they part ways, John unexpectedly runs into his older brother, who informs him that he's been transferred to the university as a professor. John's brother insists that they keep their relationship a secret from everyone. Yoon witnesses their conversation. That night, Yoon works at the supermarket where his old friend Ron shows up, asking him to grab a drink with her since they haven't seen each other in a long time. She tells him to take a break from his constant work and spend time with his friends. Yoon feels torn, but remains focused on his responsibilities. The next morning, Yoon wakes up early, exhausted, and falls asleep on the bus on his way to class. He rushes to the university, only to find out that the lecture was canceled, leaving him frustrated. John approaches Yoon to thank him for helping out, but Yoon bluntly responds that he didn't do it for him and walks away. Jen arrives just in time to see the tension between them, thinking they're about to fight. But Yoon simply leaves. Jen grows increasingly upset, feeling that John has broken his promise about the project. But later, John surprises her by visiting the secretary and giving up the project for her. He then learns that they are now in the same class and is thrilled at the thought of seeing her more often. They walk back together in the rain, with John holding an umbrella over her. The next morning, Jen wakes up to find her new roommate, Baran, sleeping on the floor. She soon realizes that Baran has some strange habits, and as the day progresses, Shia asks Jen to massage her feet, which Jen reluctantly agrees to out of fear. Meanwhile, Yoon returns home and finds his younger brother there. He discovers that his brother is planning to join the army, which angers Yoon because his brother hasn't finished his education. Yoon remembers their father, who was also a soldier and died when they were young, forcing Yoon to become self-reliant from an early age. Later, Jen goes to see her professor to present her project. The professor encourages her to conduct specialized research and bring her findings. That night, Shia is seen crying after being heartbroken by her lover, who had once praised her appearance but criticized her personality. She returns home, and Jen and Ryan try to invite her to dinner, but she refuses and isolates herself. Meanwhile, John's friends show up at his house, intending to stay over, but this time John refuses. They barge in anyway, making a mess, and John becomes frustrated, realizing that they're only using him for his money. The next day during class, John remains silent around his friends and chooses to sit next to Yoon, offering him coffee. He tries to strike up a conversation, but Yoon leaves to get some sleep. The professor enters and announces a group project, instructing the class to form teams. John, Yoon, and John's friends end up in the same group. After the lecture, Yoon asks Jen to join his team, but John convinces her to join their group instead. He even exchanges phone numbers with her, bringing them closer together. The team gathers to discuss their project, and they decide to make Jen the leader. Suddenly, John receives a call from his mother, informing him about a family dinner where his uncle and aunt will be attending. It's revealed that John's family has no real concern for him and only focuses on his older brother. That night, we see Shia still struggling emotionally after her breakup. She goes to the supermarket, drops a drink, and starts crying. Yoon, who happens to be there, notices her distress and helps clean up the mess. Shia thanks him and gives him a drink as a token of appreciation. Though Yoon doesn't like receiving gifts, he lets her go. The next day, the team is supposed to meet, but neither John nor Yoon shows up. Jen tries to contact them, but they don't respond. Yoon proposes that the team split the work among themselves, but John disagrees, claiming that Jen might have ulterior motives. Jen steps in and distributes the tasks, stating that if anyone fails to complete their part, she will handle it as the team leader. However, Yoon refuses to stay in the group and walks out. Jen and John follow him outside, only to find John's friends drunk. Yoon warns them to take responsibility for their actions or risk being a burden on the group. John's friends get angry and try to fight Yoon, but John steps in, attempting to calm them down. Despite John's efforts, a fight breaks out, and John has a flashback to his childhood, recalling the harsh treatment he endured from his family. Overwhelmed by the memory, he begins crying and shouting to stop the fight. His friends are taken aback by his sudden outburst. Jen tends to Yoon's injuries and pleads with him not to leave the group, explaining that she needs him. Yoon agrees but refuses to reconcile with John, choosing instead to walk away. As John wanders alone, he spots his older brother's car and joins him. John is reluctant to go home, but he attends the family dinner anyway, wearing a wig because his family despises his natural hair. During dinner, John accidentally mentions that he doesn't attend Seoul University but a regular college. His father becomes furious, slapping him in front of everyone and blaming his mother for inviting him. John's father coldly tells him to leave the house and that he will send him money but never wants to see him again. His mother, instead of comforting him, blames herself for giving birth to someone like him. She mockingly removes his wig, jeering at his hair before kicking him out of the house. John leaves the house feeling humiliated and broken, joining his brother in the car. His brother tells him not to come back because no one in the family loves or cares about him. Unable to bear the weight of everything, John gets out of the car, haunted by the cruel words of his parents. In a state of despair, he calls his so-called friends, who are only interested in his money. They agree to meet, but only if John pays for everything. John drowns his sorrows in alcohol until he's heavily drunk, overhearing his friends talk behind his back, jealous of his wealth and popularity, unaware of the pain he carries. In his drunken state, John calls Yoon, threatening to end his life if Yoon doesn't come to see him. Yoon, busy with work, doesn't answer, so John calls Jen instead. Feeling responsible as the group leader, Jen agrees to meet him. When she arrives, she finds John standing near a river, about to jump. She tries to talk him down, but John begs her to be his girlfriend. Jen gently refuses, telling him that she loves someone else. Just then, Yoon arrives and sees John in a severely intoxicated state. Yoon has no choice but to carry John on his back and take him home. When Yoon enters John's luxurious house, he's struck by the stark contrast between the pristine, spacious bathroom and the cramped, rundown one in his own home. This realization triggers deep resentment in Yoon about the unfairness of their situations, leaving him silently angry. After leaving John's house, Yoon asks Jen not to tell John that he was the one who brought him home, so John won't feel obligated to thank him. The next morning, John wakes up, unable to remember anything from the night before. He calls Jen, asking who brought him home, but she keeps it a secret. Meanwhile, the secretary mistakenly thinks that Jen forced John to give her the project, but Jen clarifies that John gave it willingly. Later, John realizes that Yoon was the one who brought him home because Yoon was the last person he called the previous night. He meets with Jen and asks who she loves, revealing that he actually remembers everything from the night before. Surprised, Jen tells him it's someone close to him, but he doesn't know it. She's referring to John's friend, Taeshan. John then takes Jen to a scenic spot to watch the sunset and offers to help her win Taeshan's heart, even giving her advice on how to express her feelings to him. Jen decides to visit Taeshan's house, but when she gets there, she finds him in a confused state. She calls him and he promises to come over soon, so she cleans his house while waiting. However, Taeshan never shows up. During this time, John watches Jen from his window, because they're neighbors, and realizes that Jen is in love with his friend, Taeshan. The next day, Yoon is seen searching for a new apartment because he needs to move out. He's also struggling to find a new job to pay for rent, but no one seems willing to hire a student. John takes Jen to the market to help her change her style and buy new clothes so that Taeshan would notice her. Meanwhile, we see that John has started to develop feelings for Jen but doesn't want anyone to notice. After Jen buys new clothes, she tries to pay for them herself, despite John's offer to pay. She insists and says, "Take something from me so I can repay you," and thanks him for spending time with her. They eat ice cream together until Jen gets on the bus, and John returns to his house. Later that night, Taeshan and John talk from their balconies, and Taeshan tells him that his crush will be coming to his house tomorrow. John sends a message to Jen, encouraging her to confess her feelings to Taeshan the next day. Meanwhile, Ron runs into Yoon at the supermarket while he's working and reading something. They leave together to talk, and Ron finds out that Yoon is looking for another job to increase his income. She gets upset because Yoon doesn't have enough time to spend with her, but despite her frustration, she calls a friend to help Yoon find a new job. The next day, the group meets to discuss their project. Jen and John arrive together, and the group suspects there might be something going on between them, which makes Jen feel shy. After the meeting, Yoon leaves for his job, and John follows him, trying to invite him out to thank him for bringing him home when he was drunk. but Yoon declines, saying he doesn't have time. Later that evening, Jen buys some food and goes to Tashawn's house for dinner. However, Tashawn forgets about their plans, and when Jen arrives at his house, another girl, who is his girlfriend, opens the door. Jen feels embarrassed and leaves, running into Tashawn on her way out. She remembers how, when they were children, he gave her a bracelet while she was crying, which made her very happy. John sees Jen sitting outside and crying. He invites her up to his place, and she goes while still in tears. She tells him, "Tishan lied to me, saying he broke up with his girlfriend months ago, but it was all a lie." John suggests, "Make me your fake boyfriend to make him jealous." Jen agrees, and the first thing John does is take off her bracelet so Tashawn won't think about her all day. They go out to the balcony together, making sure Tashawn sees them. Tashawn gets jealous when he notices them, and John tells him that Jen is now his girlfriend. John then walks Jen home, and on the way, Tashawn calls her, but John tells her not to answer, saying, "He doesn't deserve you." He also advises her not to meet or talk to Tashawn until he recognizes her worth. They joke around as they continue walking, showing that they are getting along well. Meanwhile, Shia goes to the supermarket to see Yoon because she has feelings for him, but when she arrives, she finds someone else in his place and gets upset. The next day, Yoon is at university and meets one of his friends, who suggests a job to him. Yoon goes to the job and is immediately accepted. However, he later finds out that Ron was the one who got him the job. Even though it's a well-paying job with housing included, Yoon turns it down because he doesn't want to feel indebted to anyone. That night, Ron finds out what happened and confronts Yoon angrily, upset because she wanted him to live a better life. But Yoon explains, "I don't like to owe anyone anything." The next day, Yoon's younger brother visits him at the university, and Shia sees him there. She develops a crush on Yoon's brother, but as she approaches, he trips and falls. He pretends he was just exercising, which makes all the girls around laugh at him. Yoon's brother eventually joins Yoon, and they run into John. John tells Yoon's brother, "I'm Yoon's friend," which surprises the younger brother, who didn't think Yoon had friends. John invites them both to have a meal together, and they accept. During dinner, John observes how Yoon treats his younger brother with kindness and care. This reminds John of how his own family treats him poorly, and he feels sad. John tells Yoon, "You treat your brother with such kindness. You must really love him." "I wish I had a brother like you because I don't have any siblings." The group meets again, but John's friends haven't completed their part of the project. Yoon angrily scolds John's friends, and they leave the group. They demand that John also leave the group, but John refuses and decides to stay with Yoon. He offers to provide them with the research information they need. John calls his father's company secretary to request the necessary information. At that moment, John's father is near the secretary and initially agrees to provide the information. However, when he learns that it's not for his eldest son, he refuses to share the information. Later, Jen finds out that her research project has been successful, and the secretary calls to congratulate her. At that moment, there are students nearby who overhear the conversation. When the professor enters, Jen is recommended for the secretary position, but one of the students falsely claims that he helped Jen with her research and is the reason for her success. The professor changes her decision and makes the student the secretary instead. We then see Yoon working at the supermarket. John's friends come to bother him, knocking bottles off the shelves. Yoon can't respond since he's dealing with customers. Ron arrives and confronts them, showing off her kung fu skills. John's friends are scared off, and Yoon's club friends arrive, further intimidating them. Later, when Yoon returns home, he finds his younger brother with a large amount of money. He discovers that his brother stole John's watch and sold it, keeping the leftover money. Yoon scolds his brother and leaves the house, heading to John's place. Yoon calls John outside, and when John arrives, Yoon offers to repay him for the watch. However, John declines, saying, "What I really need is for us to be friends." They agree to become friends. Meanwhile, as Jen is walking, she sees Tashawn waiting for her. When they talk, Tashawn realizes that nothing is going on between Jen and John, and she had been lying to him. Tishan warns her not to trust John, revealing that John knew his crush was coming to see him that day and still invited her over to ruin things. Jen recalls a message John had sent that day, but chooses not to believe Tishan. She calls John and asks to meet him. John, excited, agrees and goes to meet her. Jen asks if he knew that Tishan's crush was coming that day, and John admits he did, saying he just wanted the situation to be over and didn't want to see her sad anymore. However, Jen becomes angry, telling him that his actions hurt her. She says, "From now on, we won't be friends. The only thing between us is the project." John gets upset after losing his only close friend, sinking into his thoughts and painful memories. He decides to go to a nightclub where he drinks heavily. In his drunken state, he calls Yoon, who is still at work, and tells him, "I hurt someone I care about deeply, and I don't know what to do." Yoon advises him to confess his feelings, then ends the call. John gathers his courage and runs to Jen's house. He calls her, and when she looks out the window and sees him, she is surprised. She comes downstairs to talk to him, and John apologizes sincerely, telling her, "I hurt you and I'm sorry. I love you, but don't answer me right now. Take your time and think about it." He leaves after that. Meanwhile, Yoon, overwhelmed with work, collapses from exhaustion. John makes an unexpected call, and the nurse informs him that Yoon is in the hospital. John, worried, rushes there. The nurse tells him that Yoon is suffering from malnutrition and that he should stay until Yoon wakes up. When Yoon wakes up, he is upset with John, feeling that he has done him a disservice. John asks why Yoon is always angry with him and tries to distance himself. Yoon responds that he is frustrated with the life John leads and how detached he is from it. John laughs, as everyone thinks he is content with his life. Yoon gets angry, telling John to stay away because his life is full of problems. John refuses to be pushed away and insists that no matter how much Yoon tries to distance himself, he won't leave. The nurse intervenes, telling them to focus on care, and then leaves. We see Jen working on her research. She recalls John's declaration of love and realizes she has incorporated his words into her research. She gets upset and can't continue with the research. She meets with her friends in their room where they start discussing their love problems. It turns out Ron loves Yoon, but he doesn't notice. John searches online for foods for people with malnutrition and buys some to give to Yoon. When he arrives, he discovers Yoon isn't there and tries to call him, but gets no answer. At that moment, Yoon returns to his previous job, asking the employer to take him back. The employer refuses, citing Yoon's exhaustion, and tells him to come back during the break if he wants to work. Yoon refuses to rest and looks for other jobs, but struggles to find one. The next day, Jen goes to the university to tell John her feelings, but finds him taking pictures with many girls. She leaves upset. John then goes to his brother's office, asking for information, but is given the information with one condition. His brother treats him poorly, saying not to come to family gatherings because no one wants him there. John is heartbroken, crying and saying that he has doubts about being part of the family. He leaves with a file in hand. Later, Jen meets with John and expresses that she has feelings for him but needs to get to know him better. They agree to be friends. While John is on his way to a lecture, Yoon sends him a message advising him to rest until he recovers. John sees Yoon at the university and realizes Yoon has joined the class. When they leave, John hands over the file and Yoon gives him the money he had, surprising John with how quickly he got the money. Yoon says it doesn't matter now and asks John to stay away, but John insists he won't leave. We then see the student who became the secretary, working in the professor's office, and mistakenly replaces Jen's name with his own on a research paper. Jen, walking around the university, notices she has become well known and that everyone is talking about her. They assume John is romantically involved with her. Upset by the rumors, Jen confronts John, accusing him of causing the situation. John explains that he had nothing to do with it and leaves, feeling dejected. Jen hears students saying she doesn't deserve John and that he is more attractive. She recalls being bullied as a child and her father leaving home to be with another woman. Overcome with emotion, she collapses on the ground, struggling to breathe. Meanwhile, John is with his friends who ask about Jen. John responds that they are just friends. When he hears them speaking ill of Jen, he gets angry and leaves. John calls Jen, but he hears her crying and unable to speak. He becomes worried and searches everywhere at the university. He finds her sitting alone, trying to breathe. He attempts to approach her, but she pushes his hand away and asks him to stay away, saying that their relationship causes her trouble. She cries and says that his presence is distressing and that she doesn't want to be friends. She leaves. John recalls his mother's words, which suggested that his presence causes trouble for everyone he gets close to, and that no one will like him or want to be his friend. Jen goes to the professor's office and asks about the research she did. However, the professor treats her poorly, saying she doesn't want Jen to be the secretary, and then she storms out. We see John's friends partying at a club where Ryan works. When they see him, they treat him badly. Ryan wants to fight, but is restrained by John's friends. John goes to pay for something, discovering that Ron is friends with Yoon. John asks how they became friends, and Ron explains that Yoon is a stubborn person and it's necessary to be friends with him. After leaving the club, John sees Yoon calling and invites him to dinner, which Yoon happily accepts. At the restaurant, John finds Yoon working as a waiter and serving food. John is upset, thinking Yoon is trying to compete with him. Yoon's manager notices and scolds him for leaving customers unattended. John leaves the restaurant and waits outside until Yoon finishes work. When Yoon arrives, John avoids him because Yoon smells of food. Yoon tells John that he invited him to see that they are not on the same level and that it's not suitable for them to be friends. John responds that Yoon didn't need to go through all that trouble. He promises to do whatever Yoon wants starting from that day. John leaves his group of friends and joins Yoon's, but they are not happy together. His friends talk about him, but he doesn't listen. Jen visits the professor's office again to ask why her research was rejected, hoping to correct the situation if the problem was with her. The professor says she doesn't like people who take advantage of others to achieve their goals, and that it shows incompetence. Jen learns from Yoon that John brought the information before leaving the group. John's friends overhear Yoon's comments and start fighting with him at the restaurant. After work, Yoon is kicked out of the restaurant by the chef, who demands payment for broken items. Yoon pleads for a second chance but is told it's his last day at the restaurant. Yoon cries, and John sees him and follows him. Yoon asks John not to tell anyone he saw him crying. John gets angry and tells Yoon to stop putting excessive stress on himself and that it's not shameful to ask for help sometimes. John then leaves. At that time, Ron notices and calls Yoon but doesn't get an answer. Shia learns from John's friends that the most famous guy at the university has a relationship with Jen and is skeptical. When she returns home, she tells Ron, who is surprised. Shia says she saw John and Jen fighting and realized that they were fighting over Jen. When Jen returns, she is treated well and asked what she did to make them like her. Jen feels embarrassed and says it's all a lie. The next day, Jen asks John for an apology and tells him to return to the group. She also asks him to find the name of a tree. Then she leaves. After that, John searches for the meaning of the tree and finds that it symbolizes sincere apology. He laughs at the sincerity of it. We see Jen at the university, surrounded by John's friends, who start bothering her until she cries. John arrives and yells at his friends, then takes Jen with him, leaving his group. Yoon then asks Jen to get John back into the group. They meet, and the relationship between them seems to be fine. Jen decides to leave to speak with John privately. Yoon apologizes to John for what happened, and John says he has forgotten about it. The professor learns that her research secretary stole Jen's research and used his name instead. The professor feels guilty about how she treated Jen. Yoon finds another daytime job at a restaurant and arrives late to a meeting. Jen is surprised by his lateness because it's not like him. John takes Jen to her old school to face past issues and heal her wounds. When she arrives at the school, she recalls past memories and starts crying. John tries to comfort her until she feels better. As they walk together, Jen almost falls, but John catches her and ties her shoelaces. They run happily to her home. The secretary is surprised to learn that the professor used Jen's research for her project and asks about it. The professor threatens her not to tell anyone, causing the secretary to leave the office in fear. The time for the project presentation approaches. John's friends come to ask Jen to rejoin the group, but Jen refuses, saying she has added effort to the project. During the presentation, Jen's group starts presenting their project, and the professor is impressed by their effort. One of John's friends accuses the professor of taking credit for their work and reveals that the information was taken from Jen's open laptop. Jen decides to confront this, as she is the group leader, despite her anxiety about public places. Remembering John's advice, she stands firm and proves they are lying. The professor accepts their argument and gives them full credit, and they are happy with the outcome. Ron meets with Yoon, and they joke around and have a good time. Shia, who is in love with Yoon, becomes upset seeing them together. That evening, John and Jen celebrate their success. Jen opens up about her feelings, and John, while happy, feels that Jen is still distant. Jen feels embarrassed and tries to avoid him. John walks her home and gets a call from Yoon, who asks to meet and shows him a video of the restaurant manager causing trouble. Yoon asks if John did this, and John admits he did it to bring justice. Yoon thanks John, and John is pleased. The next day, Jen wakes up, remembers what happened, and feels embarrassed. She is reluctant to go to the university but decides to go anyway. Her phone is out of battery, so she starts looking for John. Unexpectedly, she sees Tishan, who asks to be friends again, but Jen refuses. John tries to call her, but her phone is dead. When he sees her with Tishan, he grabs her and takes her away. Afterward, John talks about what happened the previous night. Jen pretends to not remember, but then encourages herself and tells him that she loves him. John is very happy and tells her that he loves her too. They agree to be a couple, and they walk hand in hand in front of everyone. There's a celebration happening, and we see Ron's group performing a risky show, impressing everyone with their talent. John performs during the show, and everyone admires his beautiful voice. Meanwhile, Jen is captivated by him. We see Shia and Ron sitting with Yoon. Both are interested in Yoon. Shia asks Yoon to join her, but Yoon says he is busy. Ron feels jealous and takes Yoon by the hand, bringing him home where a birthday party is being held for him. John arrives and gives Jen flowers. Shia also arrives, and the celebration begins with everyone happy. Yoon feels embarrassed, and Ron puts a cake on his face. They take a happy group photo and start playing a game of honesty, where Yoon is asked if he has any friends. Yoon says he has 2.5 friends, naming John. Everyone laughs. Jen is also asked if she and John are in love, and Jen confirms they are. As the party ends, Shia examines photos of Yoon. Jen helps with the party, with John assisting her. Meanwhile, John's friends try to exploit the situation by asking people to pay if they want a photo with John. Many girls come, but John refuses and leaves. John then learns that Jen wants to become his brother's secretary. John gets angry and asks her not to. Jen is surprised and asks if he knows why, but he refuses to explain and leaves. John's friends start pressuring Jen because of their affection for John. They allow the girls to harass her. When John realizes this, he defends Jen against his friends and fights them, but they overpower him and beat him. John recalls being beaten by his brother when he was younger and decides to endure the beating. He tells Jen that sometimes one has to endure pain and defend oneself. Jen comforts John, telling him she loves him no matter what, and takes him home to clean his wounds, staying with him until he falls asleep. Yoon calls John, worried about his condition. John is happy to have a friend who cares and treats him like his own. The next morning, Jen arrives with medicine and helps John. He receives a call from his brother. When he sees the number, he realizes it's his brother. After the call ends, John tells Jen that his brother has always treated him badly and used to beat him when he was younger, making him the person he hates most in the world. Jen is deeply affected by this. Yoon meets with Ron and comments that it's the first time he's seen someone fighting. He sarcastically says that John is his friend, and Yoon explains that seeing John reminds him of his younger brother, so he feels he must defend him. Yoon leaves to buy coffee. Shia arrives and asks Yoon for his number. Yoon tries to change the subject, and Shia feels embarrassed and leaves angrily. One of John's friends tries to exploit the situation further by asking John to stay at his house because his house was broken into. John refuses, saying he is cautious because he's been beaten before. John then goes to confront the man who beat him and warns him to tell the police that Yoon is the one who beat him, as he did it for John. John thanks Yoon, saying he wanted a big brother to protect him. Unexpectedly, Yoon receives a call and learns from his brother that their mother is ill and needs a back surgery, or she might never recover. Yoon tells his brother not to worry and to focus on his studies, assuring him that he will find a solution. Yoon retrieves the file from the secretary's office to go work at the university. His brother arrives carrying his belongings and is deeply affected by the sacrifices Yoon has made for him. He decides to quit military training and work alone, but Yoon refuses, insisting he will solve the problem. Yoon's brother leaves crying, and John witnesses everything and learns about the situation. Yoon discovers that John has paid all the hospital bills. Tishan asks Jen to meet with him, expressing his feelings for her. Jen tells him that she's interested in John. Shia also admits her feelings for Yoon, and Ron says he likes him too. They agree to tell Yoon who they like and let him choose. The teacher meets with Yoon and tells him that he was once a student in a difficult situation and asks him not to deny help because Janice will repay the favor to everyone who did good. This affects Yoon, and he calls John to thank him for his help. They talk about their lives and become friends. Shia decides to tell Yoon about her feelings but asks Jen for help. The next day, Jen invites Yoon to lunch. Shia pretends to run into them by chance, sits with them, and shows Yoon a photo she took. She asks to talk privately, and when they are alone, she tells Yoon she loves him, but he rejects her, saying he is too busy with work. Shia is upset and cries. Ron sees her there. That night, Yoon takes his belongings and sleeps on the street because he has no place to stay. He dreams of his deceased father, reflecting on how he has tried to take care of his brother and mother, but feels exhausted. John receives a message about Yoon's debt being fully paid off and starts searching for Yoon until he finds him. John asks Yoon to stay with him, but Yoon refuses. John insists until Yoon agrees. They then have dinner together, and Yoon sleeps on the couch due to exhaustion. John covers him with a blanket and is happy to help. Shia informs Ron that she confessed her feelings to Yoon, but he rejected her, leaving her heartbroken. Ron tells Shia that she should have told Yoon her feelings even if he rejected her. The next morning, Yoon wakes up to find that John has prepared breakfast, buying food for the entire month. John asks Yoon to choose some clothes, but Yoon is surprised to see that all his clothes are the same color. Jen, at John's brother's office, is reviewing a video of the assault on John's brother. She asks John about it, and he confirms that he defended his brother at that time. Jen also mentions knowing that John and Yoon are brothers. John learns that Jen knows they are close and appreciates her understanding. Jen meets with John and tells him that his brother asked about her. John responds that she's a good friend. Jen then heads to her class but runs into John's friends. They ask for an apology and request that she come out so they can make amends with their other friends. Then Jen starts trusting him, and he takes her home, locks her in a room, and starts recording a live video. He writes on the live video, "Spending time with my love," and then John sees the live video. At the same time, he calls Jen, but before she can answer, his friend takes her phone away. Jen tries to escape, but she is caught. He then tries to rape her, but John arrives at the scene and fights him. He checks to see if Jen is okay, but his friend comes from behind and hits him. He tries to strangle him to death, but Ram arrives and saves him, and the police arrest him. Later, Jen apologizes for what happened because it was her fault, but John apologizes for not arriving earlier. As John is leaving, he sees his brother waiting for him. They talk, and his brother asks, "Why didn't you fight back when you were being beaten?" John replies, "I couldn't forget the times you beat me when I was little, so I got used to enduring the beatings without reacting." This deeply affects his brother, and John leaves. He goes home, and at night, he dreams of beating his brother. He wakes up scared and starts crying. Yoon returns from work and sees John looking frightened. He tries to comfort him gently. The next day, Jen dresses up nicely to meet John as they had planned, but she is late. When she calls him, he says, "I can't meet you today." She becomes worried and goes to his house. She finds him locked in his room, so she leaves without pressuring him. Then she runs into Tishan when she gets downstairs, and he tries to talk to her, but she refuses and leaves. Tishan starts drinking and sees Ron nearby. He asks for her number, but she refuses. He says, "This isn't the first time I've been rejected," and Ron asks him to tell her what happened. The next day, John feels better and thanks Yoon. He also learns that Jen had visited him the day before, so he goes to her and apologizes for not meeting her because he didn't want her to see him in a bad state. Jen hugs him and says, "Whenever you need me, I'll always be there for you." Later, Professor Park organizes a university trip, but no one participates. The doctor laughs, but when John finds out, he and his friends join the trip. The professor is very happy to see them, and they start playing games and spending quality time together. At night, they light a fire and play a truth game where they ask each other questions. Tishan asks a question. "Anyone who loves someone here, lower your finger." Yoon lowers his finger, and everyone is surprised, wondering if Yoon loves Ron or someone else. Then they start playing a memory game, and everyone shares their memories. John remembers a time when his brother apologized to him. Yoon asks, "What's wrong, John?" John says, "I think my memory is wrong and I need to verify it." He leaves, and while walking he feels a headache and remembers that his father used to beat his brother, and his brother defended him. He's not sure what the truth is. When he talks to his brother admits their father used to beat him. John asks, "Why didn't you tell me the truth earlier?" His brother says, "Forgive me." It turns out that his brother always protected him and stayed away from home to avoid their father killing him. His brother deeply cared for him. John thanks his brother for finally telling him the truth and returns home. Yoon comes home, worried about John, and John tells him everything that happened, explaining that his brother loved and defended him. Jen, meanwhile, is worried and wants John to open up, but she doesn't want to pressure him and waits for him to tell her. Then we see that Ron hasn't slept the whole night because she's thinking that Yoon might love Shia. At the same time, Shia is thinking that Yoon might love Ron. The next day, John meets Jen and tells her that he and his brother have reconciled. Jen is happy and says, "I knew your brother loved you." Later, during a class, the teacher asks the students, "Who do you look up to?" John says, "I look up to Yoon because he is hardworking and smart. Even though he does various jobs, he always gets high grades, and I've never met anyone kinder." Jen also picks Yoon, saying, "He's reliable and never breaks a promise." Yoon, hearing this, feels shy. After class, they see Shia waiting and asking to talk to Yoon. At that moment, she realizes that the girl Yoon loves is Ron. Shia then says, "I don't regret confessing my love. I'm happy to have met you because you're a good person." She gives him a picture she drew and thanks him for giving her the chance to express her feelings, then leaves. Meanwhile, we see John and Jen walking together. When they arrive at the apartment, John sees his mother waiting. She enters the house with them and starts insulting the girl John is with. She then asks about his brother, as she doesn't know where he is, and starts crying. John notices bruises on her body and realizes that his father has been beating her. However, his mother begs him not to tell anyone, and she leaves, crying. John then calls his brother and finds out that his brother has repeatedly asked her to leave the house and divorce their father, but she refused. John, angry, asks Yoon to talk to him. John asks Yoon about his father, and Yoon replies, "My father was a soldier, and I inherited his strength so I could take care of my mother and brother." John talks about his own father and says, "My father treated me and my mother badly and used to beat us." Yoon is shocked because he realizes that John's life is much harder than he thought. Later, John's father sees a video of his son being beaten and tells his driver to keep an eye on John wherever he goes. The driver is seen watching over John at the university, and he sees John with Jen. Then we see Ron dreaming that Shia is marrying Yoon, and she wakes up startled. She talks to the doctor and confesses that she's afraid to tell someone she loves them. The doctor advises her to confess her feelings before it's too late. Ron gathers her courage and goes to Yoon, saying, "I missed you." She's happy she finally said it, and they run together. Meanwhile, Jen tells John about her life. She says, "My parents divorced when I was young, and my mother left home and never contacted me again." She tells John that her mother recently called her, and John encourages her to tell her mother everything that's on her heart. Jen follows John's advice and meets her mother. Her mother says, "Jen, I've missed you." But Jen responds, "I've lived through hard times, but now I've grown, and I don't need you." Jen leaves, crying, and John is waiting outside for her. When he sees her, he gives her a hug and says, "Give it time. You just need time to forgive." He holds her hand as they walk together. Suddenly, the driver appears and says, "Your father wants to see you." Jen feels anxious, but John reassures her, saying, "Everything will be fine." John gets into the car with the driver, and Jen goes to her brother's office. She tells him that John's father sent a driver to take him home, and her brother is alarmed by this news. He quickly grabs his car. At that moment, he remembered when he was young, and his father threatened him, saying that if he hit John again, he would expose him. He told him, "You can do whatever you want to me, but you must leave John alone." At the same time, John was at home, and his father showed him the video of him being beaten, saying, "This is hatred." He then asked John to come back home so that he could keep an eye on him, but John refused. His father got angry and locked him in a room, intending to beat him. But his brother arrived just in time to stop him. John came out of the room, and his brother fought with their father, telling him, "I've warned you many times not to touch John." At that moment, we see that the father is afraid of his son. John's mother then arrives and knocks on the door, pleading with him to let her son go. She breaks down crying, and John remembers when this happened when he was younger, but this time his mother called the police and told them how badly her husband treated her and their children. John leaves with his brother in the car, thanking him for always protecting him, sacrificing himself, and taking on their father's anger to keep him safe. They return to John's apartment where Yoon is waiting, clearly worried. But John breaks down in tears, and Yoon stays by his side to comfort him. Days later, we see John still in his room, deeply depressed, not talking to anyone, and refusing to come out. The students at the university notice his absence, and they ask Jen about him, but she doesn't know anything. She and Yoon go together to his apartment, intending to check on him. Suddenly, she sees him standing in front of her. The first thing he does is hug her, telling her how much he missed her. He sits with Yoon and says, "We're the same. You saw me crying, and I've seen you cry." He also thanks Yoon for always being there for him and sharing in his sorrow. Later, John's friend, who had previously kidnapped Jen, comes to apologize after getting out of jail, deeply regretting what he did. He tells John that he wants to leave the university, but John refuses, saying, "I won't let you ruin your life again." He tells him to apologize to Jen and start over. His friend starts crying, then goes to Jen, kneels in front of her, and asks for her forgiveness in front of all the students. As he cries, Jen tries to calm him down, telling him, "I've forgiven you." Later, the teacher arrives and assigns the students their final graduation project for the end of the semester. He gives those who scored poorly on previous projects a second chance and says that the groups will remain the same. John then invites his friends to celebrate together, and they gather happily. We see that their friendship has grown much stronger. The next day, rumors spread about how John's mother reported his father to the police, accusing him of threatening to kill her and their children. John's father sees the news and becomes furious. As he leaves the office, he notices all the employees have left, and when he returns home, the house is empty. He realizes that his wife has taken all her clothes and left him. In his anger, he starts drinking heavily. John later visits his father and tries to talk to him, telling him, "You need to change. Everyone has distanced themselves from you because of your bad behavior." He begs his father to change and apologize to those he's wronged, but his father becomes angry and tries to hit him. John stops him and says, "I'm not afraid of you anymore, starting today." He also warns him that if he tries to hurt his brother or mother again, he will show no mercy. His father is left shocked. John returns home and finds his brother there. His brother tells him, "Bring our mother back home," and adds, "I'm tired of this job. I'm only doing it for you, and I love you." But his brother responds, "Forget it, and pretend you don't have a family, just like you've always told John." Later, we find out that Shia has left the student dormitory and the university. Ron and Jen miss her, feeling that the house isn't the same without her presence. The next day, the group gathers to discuss their project, and they want to come up with an idea that will impress both the students and the professor. Yoon suggests that they ask for help from an actress, and everyone agrees. They choose a girl named Kim, who is part of the advertising department. Jen and John go together to meet her, and John asks her to assist with the project, which she agrees to. Later that night, John feels hungry and asks Yoon if he wants to eat with him, but Yoon replies that he's not hungry. John decides to cook anyway, and the food smells incredibly delicious. When he finishes cooking, Yoon shows up to eat with him, and they playfully argue like brothers. The next day, Yoon meets with his brother, who gives him a gift. Yoon discovers that the gift is a keepsake from their father, and his brother tells him that their father always wanted him to become a soldier. He then advises Yoon not to worry about him and their mother, but to focus on his own life. Yoon starts reminiscing about his father, remembering him dressed in his military uniform. As he opens the book his brother gave him, he sees a picture that his father took, and he feels a deep longing for his father's affection. Meanwhile, the doctors are surprised to hear that the secretary is quitting because she is getting married. One of the students asks to become the new secretary, but she refuses, reminding him that he once lied to her. She refers to the time when he changed Jen's name in the research project. She advises him to work on bettering himself. The group meets again for their project and decides to write about the light and darkness within every person. Each member starts sharing their personal struggles, and we see how their stories are meaningful. They encourage each other to build confidence, and everyone practices their roles. They also resolve any conflicts they have among themselves. The day of the project presentation arrives, and John asks to present the project himself. Everyone is surprised because he's the youngest in the group, but they encourage him. John begins by saying, "Each one of us needs someone to help us see the light within ourselves." He then plays a video that shows their lives as young people. When the video ends, his friends cheer and applaud him. Jen asks him to play another video, which shows their hard work on the project, how tired they were, and how they helped one another. The audience loves the bond of friendship they have, and in the end, they win the award for the best project and presentation. The group is overjoyed. That night, they celebrate together. Tashawn meets Jen and tells her that he plans to join the military. He thanks her for always being by his side from when they were young until now. He admits that he regrets not confessing his love for her earlier because he assumed she would always be around. He wishes her happiness and hugs her goodbye. He asks her to close her eyes until he leaves because he doesn't want her to see him cry. He wants her to remember him as happy. Later, Ron goes to Yoon and confesses that she loves him, but she says that she knows he's aware of it and has been ignoring it. Because of this, she decides to distance herself and just be friends. She then heads to the gym, where she meets Tishan, and they start talking, realizing they've found each other. Meanwhile, Yoon returns to John's apartment and tells him that he will spend the summer vacation at his uncle's house to take care of his mother. He adds that if things go well, they will live together in the same place. Then John gets upset because he feels abandoned and is afraid of being forgotten. However, Yoon reassures him by saying, "You will always be my precious friend, no matter where I go." They end up joking and laughing the entire night. 2 months later, they return to their studies. We see John deep in thought during class, with Yoon sitting behind him. When Yoon tries to pour him coffee, he accidentally spills it, and they both laugh, as it's the first time they've seen each other in class. Later, John and Jen sit together and share the lecture. After class, Yoon starts looking for a job to work at after college. He still says he doesn't have time for love, but now he has friends to share both happiness and sadness with, so he's content. The three of them meet and reminisce about old memories, laughing about the situations they went through. And the series ends here. Subscribe for more videos like this and type in the comment the next series you want.